Hello, welcome. I know that, as I said in the previous session, gradually we are making progress. And I can see you are getting excited because you are beginning to put all the pieces together. And as you put these pieces together, you are gradually creating your NGO. Note that the essence of this course is not for you to read and get an A and run away. The essence is for you to be able to create your NGO or apply the principles we are learning to even create a for-profit organization if you want to do so. In the last session, we looked at vision, mission statement of NGOs to establish why NGOs are created and why they exist. And we said that NGOs exist for a purpose, and that purpose has to be clearly defined in the mission statement so that anybody who comes along knows why the NGO exists. And we said that that helps you to be able to draw support for your activities. After all, they say birds of the same feathers flock together. So people would come along with you if they identify with you in terms of what you are doing. And that you can make very clear in your mission statement. Today, we want to move slightly forward. And in this session, session 4, we will be looking at values, beliefs, operating systems, and the image of an NGO. These are slightly and these are extensions of the mission statement we talked about. And it's important you recognize that NGOs are also like human beings. They have values. They have things they believe in. The values and the things they believe in must be practicalized in their operating principles. In other words, if you believe in something, when you act, we should see that thing actually coming into practice. When you behave, we should see that coming. You should apply the things you say you believe in when you act. And when you begin to apply the values and the principles and the beliefs in what you do to guide your activity, we say you are actually applying your operating principles. So operating principles are nothing but principles that guide you when you behave or when you act, when you examine or you put projects in place and all of that. And then to crown it all in this discussion, we will look at the image of an NGO. As human beings, we all have images. I don't know how your friends see you, but truth is, my friends see me in a certain way. For example, they say I like to make a lot of jokes. And so that's an image that I have created. So everywhere I go, I try to make jokes so people can laugh. And that is an image I'm getting for myself. My students like me a lot, so they call me. My nickname, the students call me, is social justice. So when they meet me anywhere, they shout social justice. And what I try to do is to live social justice, to make sure that I treat students fairly. It doesn't matter whether they are good students or bad students. It doesn't matter whether they are rich students or poor students. I treat everybody fairly so that my name, social justice, can be lived. That is what we are going to be looking at, what NGOs do in this unit. My name is Justice Baole again. So we come along with me as we talk about values, beliefs, operating systems, and image of NGOs. So that's what we'll be talking about in this session. So what are core values and beliefs? Again, pause and ask yourself, why would you do the things you do and not do the others you don't do? For example, why would you not cheat in exams when others will cheat in exams? You see, so there is something that is making you not to cheat, and that thing is a certain type of value that has been put in you, a certain type of understanding that you have, that cheating is bad. So you have that in you to say cheating is bad, and therefore I won't cheat. That thing which drives you to recognize that cheating is bad is your value. NGOs also have values. Values that drive them to do what they do and not do what they don't do. And we say that those values also culminate into, they lead to what we call beliefs. So you believe in some things, and based on that, you don't do some things. That is what we call core values. So we say values and beliefs can be defined as broad preferences concerning appropriate courses of action and outcomes. As such, values reflect a person's sense of right or wrong, or what ought to be done. In other words, why do I do this and why wouldn't I do that? The reason is that I believe that one is wrong and the other is right. So I do what is right and I avoid what is wrong. And that sense of appropriate discrimination in doing the right thing and avoiding the wrong thing is what we call values. So your values and your beliefs are the things. Please read a bit more in your slides to get a bit more understanding on what I'm talking about. But you can discuss this in all of the things that you do. Maybe a good example of exemplifying what beliefs are is to use your religion. Your religion, you do a number of things and you won't do others because your belief is that one thing is good. Christians believe that they should do charity. They should live peacefully with other people. Muslims believe that they should do charity and live peacefully with other people. Muslims believe that they should give zakat, to poor people so that poor people can also have something to eat. These are beliefs that drive why we do what we do. And those are founded on some principles of, in the case of Christianity, what Jesus taught them. In the case of Islam, what Prophet Muhammad ﷺ taught them. So that is the kind of thing that influence what we do as religious people. And organizations also have the same thing. So for NGOs, what are some of the things that would drive them as their core values? They usually would have things like honesty. So NGOs will strive to live honest lives, to be honest in their dealings. When they are dealing with poor people, they are honest and all of that. NGOs also expect their workers to be loyal, to be fair, to treat people with equity, justice, rights for all, and in fact, that all manner of people should be treated with dignity and respect. Now, these are core values and beliefs that NGOs have. So we would expect, if you remember the discussion, we talked about what core operating principles are. We would expect that if an NGO were going to share resources in villages, and they say they believe in equity, they would actually share the resources equally to all the people who have a benefit or who are entitled to that benefit. So NGOs will have all of these more. In fact, you can name a lot more core values that NGOs should have. Now let's pause here. Pause your video. If you have access to internet, please go onto the internet and click, for example, World Vision. Go to Google, search for World Vision, search for Oxfam, search for Child Rights International, search for Red Cross, and then on their website, try to look for where you have values or where you have their beliefs, and you will be able to see what beliefs these NGOs have, what core values guide these NGOs and their activities, and then you come back to this discussion. You will be able to follow it better. But you will see that for most of them, you will see a lot of these that we have listed as part of their core values and beliefs. Now, what are the sources and types of values that organizations often have? We say that for human beings, we would derive our values and beliefs from our friends and teachers and our society in which we live and all of that. It's the same thing for NGOs. NGOs establish or are able to form their values based on the people who form the NGOs, what drives them to form the NGOs, what do they stand for. So if you got someone like Bill Gates and his wife who believe, after making all the money they can make in the world, now believe that, well, the world must be devoid of disease and all manner of problems, then that drives the activity. So you see they go about from country to country, dishing out money to organizations to either do research or to help the poor. That is how, so their belief in the things that they do is driven by what they have come out. So for many of us, I grew up in a poor community. So when I see poor people, I feel pity for poor people who cannot. So I would like to share some of my resources sometimes, not all, because my family has to also get. Okay, all right, don't say that to anyone. All right. Okay, so let's come back here. So where do people get their values from? We said that from parents and all. Where do NGOs get their values from? For the people who establish them, for the values and the vision, the mission they set themselves, and the context within which they operate. In many contexts, NGOs have rules that govern them. So your value system must be appropriate to the rules within which you operate. And the environment in which you operate, the rules there must guide you and all of that. So indeed, when you develop your product, your activities, it has to be driven by what your values are and the experiences that you pick from the cultural setting in which you live. So NGOs are also shaped, their vision, mission, values are shaped by the environment in which they find themselves. And that is why the nature and type of NGOs would differ from society to society, because the society shapes them as well. Don't forget that NGOs just don't allow themselves to be shaped, but they also try to shape the society. So we have a kind of relationship that each shapes the other. Now, there have been a number of people who have talked about what values are and how organizations would be able to get their values, and many of the things that are put there, as you can see in your slide, achievements, helping and concern for others, honesty, fairness, are the things that actually drive people to want to stick by some particular values. There are others such as service beyond self, respect for human rights, maintain a vision and responsibility, and a lot more values you can find. As I said, when you go to the websites of many of these NGOs, you would find. Now, what is it that I'm talking about? I'm talking about what will guide NGOs to do what they do. Why would Bill Gates send all his money and give it to other people? He's been driven by a certain understanding that society has to be, doesn't have to suffer. And therefore, he goes ahead to make sure he establishes or orchestrates that society doesn't have to suffer. Those are the things that we talk about when we talk about values, the things that drive you to do what you do, why you will cheat in exam, as I said, and why you will not. Now, NGOs don't just put these values and beliefs and things on their websites and in their documents. They are expected to be guided by them. So when you start forming your NGO, I'm not expecting you to put a lot of lofty things there that you cannot do. I will be expecting you to put things there that will guide the way you behave. So if you say you are an organization that believes in equity, or for example, you believe that all human beings are equal, then you should not treat women separately from how you treat men. You should not treat children differently from how you should not treat rich people differently from how you treat poor people. You should have a fair way of treating everybody. That is when we will say you are living that value that you say you have. That's when we say you are. So when you begin to operationalize your values, we say those become your guiding or operating principles. So you will see that organizations will usually go ahead to try and say that because they are fair, when they do their work, they want to be fair to the people they deal with. When organizations say their service to humanity, when they do their work, they want to show accountability, they want to show transparency, they want to be disciplined, they don't want to waste resources, they want to make sure that they have value for money. So that is why if you decide to work for an NGO or to even establish your own NGO, you are not going to be stealing the money that is meant for a lot of people to use. You have been given resources from an organization that is in Washington. They are not in Ghana, so they won't see you perhaps. You can keep that money and write a story, a beautiful story, and report to them, and perhaps nobody will see. But if you say that you believe in some values and that you have some beliefs, those beliefs we should see them in practice, such that you use your resources well. You know that there are a lot of NGOs, and when we talk about that, I'm not sure whether I'll get opportunity, but there are some NGOs, they call themselves criminal NGOs. There are those that we call Bringo, briefcase NGO. We have those that we call Congo, criminal organizations and NGOs. We have those we call Gongo, government NGOs. We have those we call Pango, party NGOs. These are all characters going around as NGOs. And people get to take advantage of the system. And I know many of my students come to me and say, I want to establish NGO. And when you ask them, what's the motivation? Oh, now that I don't have anything to do, I can be doing it small, so that I can get something to eat. I'm sorry. That is not the essence of creating an NGO. The essence of creating an NGO is to solve a societal problem. And that is why we said that your organization must be a service organization, service to humanity, and not the person at the center of creating the NGO. Now, if that is it, when you behave, we should see that you establish the NGO in a way that would help other people. So you have to be guided by the values that led you to establishing the NGO when you act. Let's share resources. For example, in Canada believes in a lot of rights for women. So when Canadian organizations are giving support to other organizations elsewhere, they expect that when you want beneficiaries should be shared in 60-40 fashion. So women will have to get 60% of the resources that the NGO is going to give, and men will get 40. Why? Because they think that women are more vulnerable, and therefore we must see our belief that we should bring women at par to men reflected in the way we share the resources. So as you go from village to village doing your work as an NGO worker, or as you begin to establish what your organization must be able to do for society, be careful that you need to be guided by the principles that you have set for yourself. And that is when we say that. But you see, that what you do as an NGO, what you do as an NGO, either in terms of what you believe, either in terms of the values that drive those beliefs, or the things that you actually do in practice, which are the operating principles, you are gradually building a certain mental impression out there. That mental impression out there that people have about what type of organization you are, whether you are a truthful organization, whether you are not a Congo or a Bringo or a Kringo, and all of that. You are building an image. And every NGO must build an image. Just like individuals. And as I told you, my students have an image of me. They think about who I am. They say what I am. And sometimes they are generous enough to tell me what they feel about me and all of that. But many times you won't even know how people perceive you. Organizations won't know how people perceive you until you begin to ask for resources from people. So the image of an NGO is a very, very important element. When we come to establishing or creating an NGO, we'll come back to it. But the image of the NGO consists of carefully designed and attuned signifiers or words that will help you to be able to project a certain positive impression about your organization in the minds of people. If communities people would agree to work with you, they must see you as a good organization. Being seen as a good organization is the image that the organization has. And this image that people can have about your organization, either as a bad organization, I'm sure if you have seen anywhere you see a red plus, a big red, what we usually call a red cross, there is a certain image that immediately comes into mind. When you see the sign of World Vision with a star up there and a lot of children under it, you will know exactly what image they are trying to portray. So we say that NGOs will need to build a certain image. That image can be built in various ways. One of the ways is the behavior of the leadership of the organization. How do you behave as an NGO leader? You are building an image. How do the people who you serve perceive you? How do your workers behave? What products do you design? What services do you design? What projects do you design? What is your name? What name? Names are very important image building devices. So if I were to come here and I say my name is Akaida and I'm here to do good, I'm surprised, you'll be surprised to see that not a lot of people will come close to me, even though I say I'm doing good. Why? Because my name will convey a certain image of a certain terrorist organization. Now we also can build image using our logo and our slogans. That is why when you are choosing, in Ghana, when you see people in black and red on a weekend, it conveys a certain event, a funeral. Now, what it means is that when you are choosing your logo, your name, and all of that, you should be mindful of how people will interpret them. And when we talk about these, one of the things we talk about is that be careful about international images that will be formed when they see. In Ghana, when you use your name, your hand, and you do this, when you put your thumb up and you begin to flip your finger on top of your hand, it's an insult, right? Now, that is an image that you cannot use across the world. Elsewhere in the world, when you do this, it means something else. In Ghana, when you do this, it means something else. When you do this and you put your finger on, when you do this, they say it's victory and all of that. So there are several images and interpretation of these images across the world. So when you are going to choose the logo, the slogan, and all the pictures, even including colors that you use, you need to be mindful that they will project a certain impression about your organization, and therefore be mindful when you are choosing them. The image of an NGO is that which gives it a positive outlook. Look at this. World Vision International. So you see World Vision International, there is a star out there, and there's World Vision International, and then it comes out with somebody smiling at a young lady. And then you see children jumping around somewhere, happy. What it conveys is that this organization shines some light on the world and helps to make people happy. That is the image that World Vision is trying to project with this kind of logo. Now, so we say that you need to know why you have an image, and this is the activity that I want you to do. Why will an NGO need an image? It's not a human being. Why must it need an image? I create a hypothetical NGO, and determine the core values of this, and in other words, begin to list what values you think your organization should have and how an image of an organization is built or destroyed. I should say this before we go. We are almost at the end of this session, but I should say this, that the image of an NGO, just like human beings, take time to build, takes years to build. To be associated with very good things takes a long time to establish, because people don't accept anything just for once. So you need to spend a lot of time to be able to build a certain positive impression. But don't forget that even though it takes that long to build an image of your organization, it will take just 1 minute to destroy that image. And that is why if you form your NGO or you work for an NGO, you have to be careful about all of the activities that you do. For example, if you were a child rights organization saying that you are going about rescuing children who are abused, and one of your workers were to rape one of those children, it will blow all the image that you have built over years, and no one is going to trust you with children anymore. And the law enforcement agencies will come at you and will make sure you don't have access to any child just because of one activity or one action. And that is why it is important to protect your image that you succeed in building so jealously. If you do that, your organization will go far. Thank you very much for staying put on this image building session. I hope that this will help you to build your personal image as well, and not just the image of the NGO. Thank you very much.